Manigold, M-A-N-I-G-O-L-D. I'm a fourth generation cherry farmer on the Old Mission Peninsula. My family came from Sweden approximately 1893 and settled in Old Mission. I still own that original farm. We've kept it in the family. We did sell the house off, but my great-great-great-grandfather came over and then worked, and he was a mail carrier actually out here, and when he got enough money, he sent for everybody else in Sweden, and they came, and pretty much my family has been in cherry farming since the beginning, and now most recently my wife and I are going into vinifera grapes and hops along with cherries. My grandmother and all her brothers and sisters that grew up in Old Mission, it was kind of rare. Most of them were engineers or school teachers in the little one-room schools out in the area. In fact, my grandmother was moved to Mayfield and was a school teacher out there. Met my grandfather. Our original name was Osland, and of course she met Ken Manigold out in Mayfield, which is kind of a popular name out in the Mayfield Kingsley history, and got married and moved back to the peninsula. Geez, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm the supervisor in Peninsula Township, have been since 1988. When I finish this term, that'll be 24 years in this position. And the peninsula is a really nice place to live and to grow up, and feel very fortunate. I did, when I graduated from college in '74, I lived in Colorado for a while, and when you're away you sure miss the water. And I came back, and I'm very glad I did, and hope to keep farming for quite a while. A lot of the older families still reside on the cherry farms. When I was growing up as a kid, a lot of the same names are there. It was kind of funny because in a small community like that, I can remember riding my bike down to Hazard Beach, about 1.5 miles from our house, and getting in trouble, and my parents knew it before I got home. You know, everybody would keep an eye on everybody, or if a strange car was in a parking lot, you know, that'd be what's going on. And I can actually remember we lived on Old Mission Road and Peninsula Drive, and at 10 o'clock at night, when you saw car lights, we'd all get up and go out to the window and look. It's a little different now. We have a lot more traffic and a lot more people, but still a good community, spirit, and a good place to raise your family. I can just think of my parents, and my father and my grandfather were avid baseball players, all from a lot of the guys that came out of World War II. They had a team out here sponsored by consumers. My dad was a pitcher and first base, and they were very successful in the area. And he just passed away last year, and basically he still had a lot of friends through that baseball. Wherever we went, we'd run into somebody who remembered Peninsula baseball team way back then. I was born in 1951, and so 56, when I went to kindergarten, that was the first year they opened Old Mission Peninsula School. Otherwise, I would have gone to the one-room school in Old Mission, where my father had, but I was the first class to go from kindergarten. At that time we went to 8th grade, and then we went into junior high on 7th Street, and that was 9th grade, and then there was only one high school in town, Central, and at 10th, 11th, and 12th we went there. About that time too, somewhere in there, Northwestern Michigan College Mr. Biederman was really moving with that, and actually one of my grandmother on my other side, her brother Gerald Olson, he was very influential in working with that college and getting it going. They're still doing that barbecue today, Olson's, and that's kind of interesting. As far as the supervisor, in our township we've dealt with a lot of growth management issues. In 1988, when I ran, the peninsula was kind of one farm. We always looked at growth coming from the south, and it was going to be like a domino effect. As soon as one farm went, the next one would feel the development pressure, the trespass issues, you know, and things like that that incorporate, or people don't want you spraying. And I ran on a responsible growth platform, and did get elected in 1988, and Gordon Hayward came on board as the planner. And even though we were an urban township and we realized that we had to plan for growth, infrastructure, sewer, water, roads, that maybe we would take another approach to government and look at things like transfer of development rights and purchase of development rights. And it took a number of years before we even got the board to put it on the ballot. Every year we would ask to put it on for a millage and they'd turn us down. Finally we beat them down with all of their questions, and in 1994 the people of Peninsula Township voted to tax themselves to purchase development rights. It wasn't a landslide, it was about 62%. But now of the Peninsula Township, roughly 18,000 acres, 10,000 acres zoned ag, and then we actually went over that 10,000 acres and condensed it to 9,200 acres of land in agricultural zoning that we wanted to save, and currently we're just a little bit over 5,000 acres under easement out here now, which means we will have farming, some type of farming, in perpetuity. And that's very important, as the peninsula, we're not your normal township. We're actually a vibrant agricultural growing area. A microclimate with the bays on each side allows us to grow things that probably only grow maybe in 2% of the United States. Vinifera grape, cherries. So we're really fortunate in that aspect. And the Planning Commission, along with saving the agricultural component, did a lot of work in saving views from public drives and public roads. And that's going to be very important in the future with tourism and keeping the hotels in Traverse City full, in the business and convention center. So overall, I think we did plan for the normal growth that an urban township experiences, but the people in this township decided to take a different route, and I think we've been recognized as the smallest unit of government in the United States that has done this, and currently we're working on a donation of development rights program, which I believe will have national significance also. So it's a nice place to live, and the people that come here kind of like to keep it that way, and hopefully we can accommodate them. One of the things that we've been trying to do on the peninsula also is to save the historic buildings and history of our township. When the Underwood development went in, approximately early 1990s when it started, I worked with a group, the Old Mission Historical Society, which I'm not sure if they were actually founded then or they were just hanging out, but we were able to save what we call now the Hessler Log Cabin. The developer gave it to us. We had to come up with approximately, I believe it was $10,000 to have the thing moved and located at the lighthouse. And I think that was kind of the actual beginning of the Historical Society, where they Actually, Walter Johnson was kind of leading it then, and replaced the logs with the logs of that current time and rebuilt that, and now it's at the lighthouse, and a lot of people enjoy looking at it. The Doherty House was another project. That was probably the first stick-built building north of Grand Rapids to the Sioux. Obviously at the Sioux, that was kind of a water transportation mecca at the time, and there were stick buildings there, but Reverend Peter Doherty came over, and to our knowledge, that's the first stick-built building north of Grand Rapids. If you can remember, Traverse City wasn't here then, 1842, and if you wanted to get here, you got here by canoe, down the rivers or the lakes, so that was quite exciting to be involved in that project. And also now we've currently opened the lighthouse up to the public, and I think that was a great move on the township's part. The lighthouse was sold from the U.S. government, I believe approximately in the 40s, and I have a list, I think it's out on the wall, of about 25 cherry farmers who all put 50 bucks or 100 bucks in, bought it and gave it to the township. It served as a private residence for many years and actually became the park's caretaker dwelling for a number of years, and until recently, and a lot of interested people in the park board got it going, and they have a lighthouse keepers project. If anybody, I can't even believe this, but you pay money to work in a lighthouse, but we have a list of people who want to do it, and it is making a little bit on revenue, which is subsidizing a lot of the development in it, and we're successful in getting grants for that also to keep it up, and it's been a really worthwhile experience. But as far as the history, and now the Historical Society is quite large, very effective. The Doherty Society is up and running. It's just been a lot of good community groups coming together.